Dobrý den, ahoj všichni. Welcome to today's video in which I will attempt to answer the question, is the Czech Republic the unhealthiest country in the entire world? A 2017 study says yes. I have some thoughts on this. I think it's a little bit more complicated, so we're going to discuss it, we're going to get into it. But before we get into that, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone that commented on and watched the previous video. You guys left so many insightful, thoughtful, informative, wonderful comments on that video, and I learned so much just from reading those. I read every single comment, sometimes more than once, and I tried to reply to every single one. If for some reason I missed yours, then just write another comment on this video and I will probably get to it this time. I couldn't believe the response to that video. I really had no idea so many people would watch that, much less have such interesting things to say in the comments. Let's keep that going on this video. So I'm coming to you today from Stromovka, which is one of the biggest parks in the city. We need to talk about this 2017 study that came out that ranked the Czech Republic as #1 on the list of the most unhealthy countries in the world. So there were a number of news articles that reported this study when it first came out, and I'm just going to read you one of these news articles, just the first couple paragraphs of it, and I'll link it in the description so that you can read it by yourself. The Czech Republic is the most unhealthy country in the world, according to a new study. Researchers analyzed World Health Organization data on alcohol consumption, tobacco consumption, and the prevalence of obesity in 179 countries. Out of those 179 countries, the Czech Republic ranked first on the list when they combined those three variables, smoking, drinking, and obesity rates, to try to determine what is the most unhealthy country in the world. So when you take that information at face value, it sounds pretty bad, right? I mean, the Czech Republic was the worst out of 179 countries. But what we're going to get into today is that I really think that there's more to the story than this study takes into account. But let's just get the bad stuff out of the way first. The smoking, the drinking, and the obesity rates. Let's take the smoking first. Do Czech people smoke a lot? Well, yes, of course. If you've ever spent any time in Prague, or anywhere else in the country for that matter, you know that that's a very true statement. At least in the younger generation, it really feels like people that don't smoke are in the minority. Maybe that's just in the sort of socially active segment of the population, the people that you see out at bars and clubs and sort of participating in the nightlife. But among those people, yes, the rates of smoking are very, very, very high. So one thing I'll note about the smoking habits here among the younger generation in Prague is that there's tons of people that roll their own cigarettes. So they buy this like high quality loose leaf tobacco and their own rolling papers and filters, and they roll up their own cigarettes. And sometimes they sprinkle a little bit of green tobacco, we'll just say. Or maybe it could be cilantro, oregano, some kind of herbs. I don't know what it is, but. So I have no idea if rolling your own cigarettes like that makes that big of a difference in the health effects, but I would imagine it's at least a little bit better for you than buying those commercial corporate cigarettes that are probably doused in like pesticides and preservatives and who knows what else. Regardless, there's no question that Czech people smoke a lot on average. And as a non-smoker, I always felt like I was heavily outnumbered and sometimes kind of a little bit left out, actually. In the United States, smoking has become a little bit of a taboo. It's like, it's almost socially frowned upon. It's not really socially acceptable to smoke in the United States as much as it was several decades ago, because there's been a tremendous public health campaign to raise awareness about the health risks of smoking. So smoking has really become in the United States something that sort of puts you on the outside of civilized society to some extent. In the Czech Republic, that's really not the case. It's completely different. Smoking here is socially acceptable, and in fact, I would say if you're not a smoker, in many cases you're actually kind of left out. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I don't think the high prevalence of smoking really reflects poorly on the Czech people, because it's something that they see all around them from a very early age, and it's just something that's normal, right? So how about point number 2? Alcohol consumption, drinking. Do Czech people drink a lot? I think if you even have to ask that question, you probably don't know what country you're talking about, or you don't know a whole lot about the country. The answer obviously is yes. Czech people actually had the highest per capita consumption of beer in the entire world, and I think they had almost double the total of the nearest competitor, which was Austria. This is actually a point of national pride, so if you bring this up in the presence of a Czech person, the reaction that you'll get is probably not shame or embarrassment, but of actual, strong national pride. Like, yes, we can outdrink anyone in the world. We drink more beer than anyone in the world. Our beer is better than anyone else's beer, and it's cheaper than anyone else's beer, so why wouldn't we drink a lot of it? If you don't drink beer, then are you even Czech? If you don't drink at least a couple pints every night, then what are you doing with your life? And the funny thing is that, even though they drink so much beer, that doesn't mean they don't drink other things. Czech people are also very fond of vodka, božkov, becherovka, wine, whatever. Czech people like drinking in general, and beer is just the foundation of the alcohol pyramid in the Czech Republic. Point number 3, obesity rates. So I think in 2017, the obesity rate that was quoted for the Czech Republic was just a little bit under 30%. So as an American, I have to tell you that any obesity rate under 30%, I mean, that's like rookie numbers, okay? There are areas of the US, regions of the US, where the obesity rate is in excess of 60 or 70%. And I think the nationwide average is somewhere between 30 and 40%. So any obesity rate that's comfortably below 35% seems pretty okay to me from the American standpoint. And I also have to be fair and say that probably a good portion of that obesity rate is the result of the American fast food and corporate food culture that has been exported to the United States in the form of chain restaurants like KFC and McDonald's and Starbucks, and the list goes on and on and on. So I'd be willing to bet that the United States is at least partially to blame for the rising rates of obesity in the Czech Republic, as we are probably more than partially to blame for the rising obesity rates throughout the entire world. I mean, this is primarily an epidemic whose epicenter is the United States of America. That's not a uniquely Czech problem by any means. So if you're a Czech person watching this right now and you care about public health in your country, you might be feeling a little bit upset. I mean, high rate of smoking, high rate of drinking, high obesity rate. So the question is, do those 3 factors, the high smoking rate, the high drinking rate, and the high obesity rate, do those really add up to the Czech Republic being the most unhealthy country in the entire world? First of all, I want to say I think it makes no sense whatsoever. It's completely ridiculous to add up these 3 variables, smoking, drinking, and obesity, and pretend like they tell the whole story of the health of an entire country and generate this sensationalistic headline like, oh, the most unhealthy country in the world. Really, they barely even measured anything at all. They didn't even measure any actual health outcomes. They didn't measure the rates of chronic disease. They didn't ask anybody in the country, like, how do you feel about your health? How do you feel about the health of the people in your community? When you look around, if you're living in Prague or really anywhere else in the country, when you look around at the people that you see on the streets and in the buses and the trams, public transit every day, and you ask yourself the question, does this look like the most unhealthy population on the entire planet? The answer is clearly no, that's ridiculous. I mean, I come from the state of Colorado, which is widely considered to be one of the healthiest states in the entire United States. And I have to say there's really not much difference between the people that I saw on a daily basis walking around in Colorado and the people I see in the Czech Republic. So personally, what I think is that there are certain things about Czech lifestyle and culture that are so positive and completely cancel out whatever negative effects the drinking and the smoking are having on the health of the population. So one of the first things that I personally noticed about Prague as a visitor is that it has an incredible abundance of parks and like green open spaces. And not only that, but the parks in Prague are full pretty much every day from dawn to dusk with people. You can see them passing me as I talk, people that are walking, jogging, hanging out with friends, riding their bikes, rollerblading, playing on the playground, playing sports, playing football, volleyball, whatever. If it's some kind of physical activity, some kind of sport that you can do outdoors, Czech people are into it. And by the way, this doesn't just happen inside the city. Most Czech people have like a chalupa or a cottage that is located somewhere outside of the city, maybe a short drive or train ride away. And the whole purpose of these cottages is basically to give them a home base for all of the outdoor activities that they're interested in doing. And high up on that list would be mushroom hunting, which is so popular that it's basically like a Czech national pastime. And the point of the mushroom hunting is not just to find mushrooms to cook, although the Czechs do have like a very rich historical culinary tradition that revolves around cooking with various types of mushrooms. Every Czech person has like an encyclopedic knowledge of which mushrooms are good to eat and which mushrooms are toxic, and they can take a look at a mushroom and they can tell you almost exactly what species it is and what you can do with it. So it's not just about finding mushrooms to cook and eat, it's just simply about being outdoors, the connection with the wilderness, the connection with the forest. And sometimes you might not even find a single mushroom in a whole afternoon of mushroom hunting, but you just enjoy the experience of being outside and walking around the woods. And if you find something, that's just a nice little bonus. So much of the Czech traditional culture, so much of their folklore and their fairy tales revolves around this deep kind of almost spiritual connection with the wilderness, with the forest. Cycling is really on the rise here. I have to laugh because sometimes you'll see like an entire Czech family, like mom, dad, and 4 kids and a baby, and they're all dressed in like matching cycling outfits. Jogging and running are very popular here. Even like kayaking and canoeing and river sports, going swimming with your friends. Basically anything active and outdoors is on the menu here. So I can almost guarantee that if this study had taken the level of physical activity into account, the Czech Republic would have looked a lot better. The other mitigating factor that I think the Czech people have, especially in regards to the drinking and smoking, is that most of the time when Czech people are drinking or smoking, they're doing so in the context of like a social gathering. They're getting together with their family or their friends, and they're making deep social connections with people in their community. And the drinking or the smoking just happens to be one feature of that whole experience. And so I think that these social connections, these communal sort of rituals and experiences are so powerful and so important, and they're so beneficial to the health of an individual and a community, that once again, even if there are some negative effects of the drinking and the smoking, they're probably balanced out completely by the benefits that Czech people get from this experience of community and of social connection with friends and family. And it's worth mentioning that what Czech people say to each other when they make a toast, and this is very similar to cultures and languages all over the world, but what they say to each other when they make a toast is na zdraví, which means like to your health. So I think Czech people are much more aware of health and the meaning of health on a broader level than people give them credit for, and certainly than this study is giving them credit for. And Czech people are obviously not stupid, so I really think that when they make a toast to each other's health, they're very aware that the proper definition of health is much broader than just like how many beers do you drink in a year, or how many cigarettes do you smoke in a year. Health happens in a whole context of the social and environmental background of your life. I think Czech people genuinely feel themselves to be a healthy people. Their definition of health and their feeling of health and their sense of their own health comes from things that are much deeper than just like how many liters of alcohol per capita they happen to drink in the year 2017. And there are some other things that actually could have been measured and quantified and compared, but they just didn't bother to do it. So for example, the Czech Republic has some of the cleanest air and cleanest water anywhere in Europe, as far as I know. They're actually known for their very stringent standards of water, drinking water quality. And Czech people are also fortunate to have extremely easy and affordable access to healthcare. So the first couple times that I went to the doctor here and had my blood drawn and got some lab work done, and then had medications prescribed, I was absolutely astonished by how cheap everything is in the Czech Republic. As long as you're on the public health insurance, which pretty much everyone is, you can get like antibiotics, for example, you can get for like 10 crowns for a full course of antibiotics. And that's in US dollars, that would be something like 40 cents, 45 cents. Like the medication that I take for my thyroid disorder, for example, a 3-month supply might have cost me $150 or $200 in the US. And here it costs me about 100 crowns, which is the equivalent of like $4.50. So we're talking about like 2 orders of magnitude more expensive in a place like the US. In the Czech Republic, if somebody has a problem with their health, they don't think twice about going to the doctor because they know that the fees for the doctor and whatever diagnostic work they have to have done, and then whatever medication they might have to take to fix that problem, all of that is going to be covered by their public health insurance. Czech people are much more liable to actually go to the doctor when they first feel like they have a problem. And I have no doubt that many larger chronic health problems are avoided that way because they don't wait until things get really bad like people in America do. So I think when you put all of these things together, high level of physical activity, a population that spends a lot of time outdoors, people that are very focused on social connection and community, clean air, clean water, free or cheap healthcare, when you put all of these variables into the mix, then I think we get a very, very different picture from what that 2017 study seemed to show us. So I think it was actually really irresponsible for the researchers to promote this narrative that the Czech Republic is the most unhealthy country in the world without even really presenting any convincing facts to support that statement, and without even analyzing the whole picture. So my conclusions from all this, I think there's absolutely no chance that the Czech Republic is the most unhealthy country in the entire world, and I would seriously doubt that they're even in the bottom half. From looking around and observing what I see from living here for a year and a half, it's pretty clear to me at least that these many positive aspects of the Czech lifestyle and culture more than adequately protect them from whatever small negative effects they might get from smoking cigarettes and drinking more beer than anyone else in the world. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments if you think I'm right or wrong about this. Let me know if you think there's anything really important that I've missed in my analysis. Tell me what your thoughts are on this topic. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again in the next one. Na zdraví.